Under the current timetable, the UK's first day outside of the EU is just 20 days away, with Britain's membership of the trade bloc due to cease on March 29. Mrs May has spent 2 years negotiating her withdrawal agreement, but the deal currently lacks support in the House of Commons. The government is holding last-minute negotiations with the EU to try and reach a deal that will be supported by Parliament. MPs' failure to back the deal in just 3 days' time risks seeing the country's departure date delayed. Mrs May warned on Friday that rejecting her deal again could mean more months and years, arguing, she added, if we go down that road, we might never leave the EU at all. Senior ministers are continuing to try and persuade the EU to make changes to the current deal in order to avoid a delayed departure. Yesterday, ministers went on a media blitz accusing Brussels of playing games with the negotiations, as they sought to pressure on the EU 27 and force them to make the necessary concessions. Both the leader of the House of Commons, Andrea Leadsom, and Conservative Party chairman, Brandon Lewis, attacked Brussels' negotiation efforts. Brexit Day is now less than 3 weeks away, but a deal is yet to be agreed. Image Getty. Theresa May is hoping her deal will be approved by MPs this week. Image Getty. The EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, has said he is working intensively to try and resolve the impasse ahead of the crucial Commons vote next week. Heated negotiations between the UK and Brussels have been taking place all week as both sides attempt to ease concerns over the Irish backstop, the part of the withdrawal agreement causing the most upset in Westminster. The backstop is an emergency mechanism which would see the UK remain in the EU's customs union even after the end of the 2-year transition period unless a solution can be found to keep the border on the island of Ireland open. However, both the UK and the EU must be in agreement for the backstop to end, causing fears Brussels could keep Britain trapped in a customs union against its will. On Tuesday, the Attorney General, Geoffrey Cox, and Brexit Secretary, Stephen Barclay, presented the EU's negotiator, Michel Barnier, with the solution to the disagreement. Michel Barnier said the EU would be working intensively in the coming days. Image Getty. They suggested an independent arbitration panel should determine whether it was reasonable for the backstop to be ended. However, Mr Barnier rejected the plan and proposed the London could unilaterally decide to withdraw from the backstop, so long as Northern Ireland remained in the emergency measure, effectively putting a border through the UK. The Frenchman revealed his counter-offer in a series of tweets on Friday afternoon. However, his efforts have been met with heavy criticism in Britain. Yesterday, Andrea Leadsom said she was deeply disappointed at the EU's proposals. Theresa May warned that rejecting her deal again could mean more months and years, arguing, Image Getty. She said, we will not break up the United Kingdom and have a border down the Irish Sea, so I have to ask myself, what game are the EU playing, putting the blame on the EU if the withdrawal agreement fails to win support in Parliament on Tuesday. She added, we are hoping we will be able to win that vote, but that does depend on the EU coming to the table and taking seriously the UK's proposals. Brandon Lewis also exerted pressure on Brussels, telling the BBC, we are not going to have an agreement that compromises the unity of the United Kingdom. The proposal that Michel Barnier put out on Friday would compromise the strength of the Union. The interventions came after the Brexit Secretary tweeted on Friday night to remind the EU of the very real deadline looming. Negotiations are set to continue over the next 48 hours to give Mrs May the best chance of winning support for the withdrawal agreement in Westminster. If the deal is voted down on Tuesday, then MPs will be given the opportunity to vote on whether the UK should leave the bloc without a deal. If a no-deal Brexit is backed, then the UK will still leave the EU on March 29, but if this is rejected, then there will be a vote on Thursday as to whether Brexit should be delayed.